Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the heart of Evergreen County, an unassuming small town lay nestled between dense, ancient woods and sprawling farmland. Its picturesque charm was marred only by the relentless whispers of a crime that would stain its reputation forever. The residents were a tight-knit community, their lives intricately intertwined, yet the devastating truth was just beneath the surface, lurking like a predator in the thicket. It was a gray, chilly morning in October when the locals awoke to news that would change everything. The body of 12-year-old Lucy Hargrove was discovered in a secluded area of Silver Creek Park, a site once revered for family picnics and weekend explorations. Lucy had been reported missing 2 days prior, her absence marking the first significant crack in the town's facade of tranquility. As police cordoned off the area, the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. Detectives arrived on the scene, their faces set with grim determination. Among them was Detective Sarah Mitchell, known for her unwavering resolve. She had seen her fair share of darkness. But the sight before her now was unbearable. Lucy's small frame lay motionless, cloaked in a faded pink sweater, surrounded by fallen leaves that crunched underfoot like a muted soundtrack of sorrow. The investigation began immediately, though deep down, the townsfolk understood that the search for answers would lead them through the shadows of their own lives. Secrets whispered behind closed doors, and uneasy alliances began to surface as a growing unease gripped the community. Who could commit such a heinous act? And why Lucy? As the harsh truth struck home, a chilling sense of betrayal engulfed the once idyllic town. The stage was set, and with it a conflict between innocence and malice that no one was prepared to confront. When innocence dies, the quest for truth becomes a relentless pursuit. The victim, Lucy Hargrove, was more than just a name on a police report. She was a spark of life in Evergreen County. The youngest of 3 siblings, she was adored by her family and cherished by her friends. Those who knew her best described her as curious and bright, with a smile that could light up the dreariest of dice, a beacon of joy amidst the all-too-familiar struggles of small-town life. On the surface, her family seemed ordinary. Her father, Jim, worked at the local hardware store, while her mother, Claire, dedicated her time to managing the household and volunteering at the town library. The Hargroves lived in a modest home, adorned with hand-painted signs and garden gnomes, a testament to their fondness for whimsy. But below this idyllic portrayal lay fragility. Jim had recently lost his job due to budget cuts, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. Lucy had always been the glue that held her family together. On the day she went missing, she had left home with carefree enthusiasm, sporting her favorite blue sneakers. She promised her mother she would be home by dinner. Plans of playing in the park with friends filled her thoughts. But as her absence stretched into hours, Claire's worries escalated. She called Lucy's friends, retraced her steps, and finally reported her daughter missing to the local police. In the aftermath of the discovery of Lucy's body, her family was plunged into inconsolable grief. Photographs of her decorated the walls of their home, youthful laughter forever frozen in frames. The community came together in a vigil, candlelight flickering against the encroaching darkness, each flame a reminder of the cherished life lost too soon. As friends and neighbors shared stories of Lucy, the depth of the community's sorrow became tangible. Amid the heartfelt eulogies, Questions lingered like ghosts in the air. Was Lucy safe anywhere? Who had taken her away? The shadow of violence brooded over this once quiet town, taking with it the innocence of childhood and leaving in its wake a profound sense of loss that would echo through Evergreen County for years to come. The crime scene. The sun hung low in the sky, casting elongated shadows across Silver Creek Park as the investigators arrived to process the crime scene. A palpable tension hung in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Detective Sarah Mitchell steeled herself as she stepped into the roped-off area, her seasoned gaze sweeping across the surroundings. Each detail echoed with significance, demanding her full attention. Lucy's body was located near the water's edge, where the creek's gentle murmurs now felt like a cruel mockery. The officer on site had covered her with a white sheet, yet its inadequate warmth did little to shield her from the chill of betrayal. Sarah's heart sank as she took a deep breath, channeling her focus into the details that could unravel this harrowing mystery. The immediate area was scoured for evidence: discarded gum wrappers, broken branches, anything that might speak of the girl's last moments. The ground was soft from recent rains, leaving faint impressions that could offer vital clues. As forensic teams collected samples, Sarah knelt by the edge of the creek, her eyes catching the ripples on the surface. This beauty stood in stark contrast to the horror that had unfolded here. A nearby park bench bore signs of a struggle. Scratches marred its painted surface, and a few tufts of dark hair were caught in the creaky wood. This discovery sparked the first flicker of hope. Maybe Lucy had fought back. Sarah's instincts kicked in, and she knew they had to find out if there were any witnesses in the area at the time. Was there someone who saw a stranger lurking nearby, or perhaps a fleeting car that hadn't seemed to belong? As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting an otherworldly glow over the scene, the real work had only just begun. Every moment counted, and time was not a luxury they could afford. In the distance, the townspeople began to gather, their murmurs swelling into a cacophony of grief and suspicion. Little did they know, answers might lead to more questions, and the truth would dismantle the fragile sense of safety they had cherished for so long. The early investigation. As darkness settled over Evergreen County, the weight of the community's grief hung heavy in the air. But the urgency of the investigation did not relent. With the sun now vanished, Detective Sarah Mitchell gathered her team in the dim light of the town's small police station. A whiteboard stood at the center of the cramped room, stark and bare, waiting to be filled with the threads of information they would collect. First, we're looking for anything, and I mean anything, that connects Lucy to the area around Silver Creek, Sarah said, her voice steady but laced with a resolve that betrayed the turmoil within. We need to speak with every person she may have encountered in the days leading up to her disappearance. The officers fanned out to track down leads, their task burdened by the knowledge that every second lost could mean a vital clue slipping away. Sarah and her partner, Detective Mark Turner, set out to interview Lucy's friends. They began with her closest companion, Nora Green, whose tear-streaked face bore a mask of shock and confusion. Nora recounted their last playdate, their laughter echoing in the back of her mind. Lucy was excited about something, she said, her voice barely a whisper. She mentioned meeting someone, a boy, but she didn't say who. As the conversation progressed, green lights flickered among the gathered officers and uncharted led. Lucy's social media accounts were now a focus, screens filled with cheerful snapshots, hiding a more complex web of adolescent intrigue. Messages were combed through, looking for hints of burgeoning friendships or disputes that may have spiraled out of control. Back at the station, forensic reports started trickling in, each piece analyzing the crime scene's mystery. The hairs found on the bench were a potential match to unknown samples pulled from Lucy's clothing. Each detail felt like breadcrumbs, guiding them deeper down a path fraught with uncertainty. As the night wore on, Sarah's resolve steeled further. The investigation was no longer just about solving a murder. It had become about peeling back the layers of innocence so brutally stripped away. The urgency was palpable. Time was fleeting, and the whispers of the past were growing louder, threatening to drown out the desperate search for truth. The dead ends, as the days turned into a suffocating week following Lucy's tragic death. The initial momentum of the investigation began to falter. Detective Sarah Mitchell watched as the enthusiasm of her team dwindled under the weight of unanswered questions and elusive leads. Evergreen County, once a haven of productivity and camaraderie, felt different now. A shadow loomed over it. And with each passing hour, the burden of finding justice grew heavier. Sarah painstakingly reviewed witness statements that had come in, each one a potential lead that seemed to fade just as quickly as it emerged. An elderly couple had seen a figure near the park entrance around the time Lucy went missing, but their vague descriptions conjured nothing but frustration. Was it a child? An adult? An adult? Their uncertainty only deepened the mystery. What had once seemed like a reliable detail now felt like another dead end. In the days that followed, a palpable quiet enveloped the town, filled with the unspoken fear of one another. Parents pulled their children closer, establishing rules that would keep them from straying too far. The vigil held in Lucy's memory felt haunting, a reminder of a shared grief yet tinged with rising paranoia. Detective Mark Turner had been working on the digital angles, combing through Lucy's social media for clues. He turned to Sarah one afternoon with a weary expression. Every lead we pull seems to dead end at the same point. No suspects, no motives. It's like she just vanished. Mark's frustration mirrored Sarah's own, and their conversations shifted from hopeful partnership to weary dialogue of exhaustion. As leads grew thinner, Sarah turned her attention to Lucy's family life, thinking perhaps there were hidden complexities. Yet, her inquiries led her to discover nothing but the same facade of an ordinary family life, with nothing alarming to suggest that dark secrets lay hidden beneath their surface. Claire and Jem appeared broken, yet united in grief, offering no reason to suspect they were anything but devoted parents. But beneath that calm admiration for her family, Sarah sensed an atmosphere thick with secrets. Each member may have been struggling inwardly in ways that remained undisclosed. Just when she believed she might catch a glimpse of the truth, fit to break the case open, the question remained: if it wasn't an external force that tore them apart, was it cruelty born from within? With this haunting uncertainty echoing in her mind, the answer eluded them all, and the shadows grew longer. A break in the case. The heavy silence engulfing Evergreen County was finally shattered by the buzzing of Sarah Mitchell's phone. One rainy Tuesday morning, the sound lifted her from the depths of weariness as she snapped to attention, her heart racing. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the line, bursting with urgency. "Detective, We have a development on the fingerprints found at the scene. The adrenaline thrummed in Sarah's veins. An exhilarating rush. She quickly gathered her team, the hope of a breakthrough igniting a spark of energy that had long faded. The forensic team had successfully lifted several partial prints from the park bench where Lucy had fought. They were tracing them against their database, and now they had a match. 30 minutes later, Sarah stood in the cramped office, eyes glued to the board where the newly obtained information was now pinned. The name sent a ripple of disbelief through her. The prints belonged to a local boy, Jason McCall, a teenager known for his troubled background and previous run-ins with the law in town. He had previously been expelled from school for a violent altercation and had a reputation for hanging around the fringes of the town's social circle. "Get me everything we have on him," Sarah directed. She could feel the gravity of this connection, each detail meticulously playing into the narrative unfolding before her. As the team raced to gather more information, Sarah's mind whirled. What could have driven Jason to harm Lucy? Did he act alone, or was there someone else involved? The investigation took on a new urgency. Delving into Jason's past, they uncovered a troubled home life marked by neglect and resentment, painting a portrait of a boy wrestling demons and desperate for belonging. Interviews with classmates unveiled whispers of Lucy being an object of fascination for Jason, an obsession fueled by a mix of admiration and anger, a volatile cocktail of adolescence spiraling out of control. With new leads emerging, Sarah authorized surveillance on Jason, hoping to catch him off guard. Her instincts told her there was more to the story, perhaps a motive rooted in something deeper than mere allure. As the team set into motion, they understood the fragile balance they now carried. There was excitement, but also fear of what the truth might reveal. The investigations thus far had left scars, but this breakthrough offered a beacon of hope. In its wake, they would pursue Jason McCall, unraveling the depths of his involvement. In seeking answers, Sarah could finally see the first glimmers of light in the darkness that shrouded Evergreen County. Yet the path ahead remained treacherous. The suspect, Jason McCall, was an enigma, wrapped in layers of confusion, a flawed puzzle whose pieces seldom fit together. As Sarah and her team gathered intelligence on him, they pieced together a profile marked by dysfunction and frustration. He was 15, caught between boyhood and the edge of manhood, and every indication suggested that his impulses often led him into trouble. With their surveillance team deployed, Sarah watched from a distance as they tracked Jason's movements through the streets of Evergreen County. He was often seen lurking around schools, hanging out with a group of older boys who looked at him as more of a lost puppy than a leader. Despite his tough exterior, they underestimated the turmoil brewing within, an unsettling cocktail of anger and longing for acceptance. The footage revealed Jason wandering into Twinkle's Diner, a local haunt where teenagers congregated to escape the watchful eyes of adults. From behind the safety of a large kiosk in the diner, Sarah observed as Jason leaned conspiratorially with his friends, punctuating his sarcastic laughter with a hint of a deeper longing. With each word he uttered, Sarah sensed both bravado and bitterness, a veneer concealing fragility. As the diner closed for the night, Sarah's team followed Jason to the shadowed outskirts of town, where he often retreated to burn off steam. It was there that questions piled up like the discarded soda cans festooning the ground. Had his escalating frustrations exploded into something irredeemable? Would they find a boy trapped in an adolescent struggle, or a dangerous predator? As Sarah reviewed reports detailing his prior offenses, the pieces became unsettlingly clear. Jason had once been charged with vandalism and bullying, but somehow his previous misdeeds felt minor compared to the magnitude of what had occurred with Lucy. Each detail reinforced the suspicion wrapping around him like barbed wire. They couldn't overlook that he had been one of the last to see her alive. But just as quickly as they closed in on him, they teetered on the edge of doubt. As Sarah crossed the dim-lit parking lot outside the diner, she couldn't shake the creeping sensation that there might be more to this than met the eye. What if he wasn't acting alone? Could Jason have been manipulated? The threads connecting him to Lucy were woven tightly, yet her instincts whispered that the truth could be even more disturbing. Motivated by both anger and confusion, Sarah felt the urgency pulsing within her. With every tick of the clock, there was a growing awareness that uncovering Jason's truths could unearth even darker shadows lurking in the back alleys of their seemingly perfect town. As she prepared to confront him, she braced herself for the potential storm ahead, knowing this could lead to questions of guilt that would resonate beyond any mere investigation. The trial. The courthouse stood tall against the gray skies, its stone facade casting an air of solemnity that matched the weight of the moment. As the trial for Jason McCall commenced, a pervasive tension filled the air, both inside and outside the courthouse. News vans lined the streets, broadcasting the trials of a boy only recently viewed as a troubled teenager, now painted in the harsh light of a murder suspect. Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself seated in the gallery, an observer to the unfolding drama she had fought so hard to understand. Behind the bar, the defense attorney paced, wearing a veneer of calm that belied the urgency of the case. A young boy's future hung in the balance. Jason sat quietly, his expression unreadable, a stark contrast to the fiery persona he had projected during his surveillance. As the prosecution laid out their case, the graphic details of Lucy's death emerged, stirring emotions among the family and friends of the beloved girl whose absence bruised the town. Witness testimonies echoed through the courtroom, recounting Lucy and Jason's interactions, revealing the delicate string that connected their adolescent worlds, often pulsing with tension. "I never thought he could do something like this," one classmate murmured, her voice trembling. Evidence mounted against Jason, the partial prints found at the crime scene, witness accounts of his presence, and social media interactions that hinted at a darker side hidden beneath his behavior. Each piece of testimony fortified the prosecution's narrative that Jason had grown obsessed with Lucy, this infatuation spiraling into an act of violence when his desires went unreciprocated. But the defense fought vehemently, attempting to dissect the evidence, dismissing the fingerprints as inconclusive, and framing Jason as a victim of circumstance, a boy ensnared in a web of adolescent confusion. Manipulated by peers, they painted a portrait of a young man misunderstood, emphasizing his struggles, home life, and the bullying he suffered. For Sarah, the courtroom felt suffocating. She had dedicated herself to seeking justice for Lucy. But could Jason truly be reduced to a singular act of violence? As the trial unfolded, doubts clouded her perspective. As closing arguments were made, the weight of her responsibility pressed down. With emotions raw and questions lingering, Sarah couldn't help but feel that the trial offered more than closure. It opened a Pandora's box of truth, exposing an unvarnished view of the town's struggle. A community grappling not only with loss, but unearthing uncomfortable truths layered beneath the surface. As the jury deliberated, time seemed to stretch infinitely. A verdict loomed, one that would reverberate through the heart of Evergreen County. Love, loss, and the tangled roots of youthful pain demanded to be acknowledged. In that charged atmosphere, Sarah readied herself not just for a verdict, but for the reckoning that would change everything the town thought they understood about themselves. The aftermath. The gavel's echo reverberated in Sarah Mitchell's mind long after the jury announced their verdict guilty on all counts. Mixed emotions flooded through her as she watched Jason McCall's stunned expression. A boy caught in a nightmare of his own making. Relief washed over the room, but it was bittersweet. Lucy's family now faced the reality that no verdict could bring back their daughter. In the weeks following the trial, the streets of Evergreen County were heavy with the aftershocks of the verdict. Grief and anger mingled, igniting heated discussions that rumbled through the town like thunder. Community gatherings took on a different tone, tinged with uncertainty, as whispers of distrust surfaced. For every person who felt justice had prevailed, there were others who questioned the validity of the trial, wondering whether Jason had acted alone or if deeper causes lingered unseen. Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself navigating the fragile landscape of the town's psyche as she conducted follow-up interviews with families impacted by the tragedy. Parents, once focused solely on shielding their children, now wrestled with uncomfortable conversations about violence, mental health, and the hidden struggles faced by their children. Jason's actions had cast a spotlight on the vulnerabilities woven through their community fabric, and the dialogue ignited a sense of urgency for change. Claire and Jim Hargrove remained the epicenter of sorrow in the wake of the trial. Each day felt like a reminder of their loss, grief etched on their faces. Sarah met with them regularly, offering her support, though she understood that no words could truly mend their broken hearts. Their strength and vulnerability served as a guiding light. They sought to honor Lucy's memory, pushing for community initiatives focused on mental health education and youth support programs. As the winter winds blew cold through Evergreen County, Sarah reflected on the transformation beneath the surface. Her interactions with members of the community reignited a fervor within her. She felt the tendrils of change taking root. The press began to cover not only the trial's outcome, but also the town's efforts to rebuild and heal. It was within this turmoil that Sarah experienced a profound awakening of her own. The investigation had opened her eyes to the often hidden struggles of youth, emphasizing the necessity for understanding over judgment, compassion over resentment. With each passing day, Sarah felt a growing resolve. Her mission extended beyond justice for Lucy. She sought to instill a change in Evergreen County that would ensure every child, whether struggling or thriving, found a place of safety, empathy, and in that spirit of healing, Lucy's memory transformed from a haunting presence into an inspiring legacia reminder of the fragility and beauty of life, a call to action to protect the innocence of youth amidst the shadows. As Sarah gazed out at the snow-covered town, she understood the path forward would be long and arduous, but the journey towards awareness and healing had begun, one fragile step at a time. Reflection. As dusk settled over Evergreen County, Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself standing at the edge of Silver Creek, where the water now flowed with a gentle tranquility she couldn't ignore. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow that felt out of place in the shadow of recent events. Yet, as she observed the shifting colors in the sky, she allowed herself a moment of reflection, a convergence of pain, resilience, and hope. Walking the familiar path around the park, Sarah recalled the laughter that had once echoed here, the innocent adventures that had been stripped away too soon. Lucy's image haunted her, dancing like a specter on the edges of her memories filled with vitality, as lively as the pixels that flickered on her social media and the conversations about childish dreams shared among friends. In her heart, Sarah vowed never to forget. Lucy's story would serve as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and understanding in a world often veiled in darkness. The trials and tribulations the community had faced were undeniable. Each conversation with parents pressed the weight of their responsibilities upon her shoulders. It was not enough to simply seek justice. A reckoning was necessary, one that scrutinized the roots of pain and misunderstanding that could lead a young person to such a horror. Through the scars left behind, an unyielding determination now coursed through Sarah. She felt a profound responsibility to educate, to advocate, to ensure that children felt safe enough to articulate their struggles, devoid of judgment or fear. In navigating the aftermath of this tragic story, a commitment became clear: to instigate transparent dialogue and foster environments where change could flourish. As Sarah remained by the creek, she understood that healing would be an arduous journey. There would be setbacks and shadows to navigate, but each step toward understanding would evoke Lucy's spirit and ignite the fire of change within Evergreen County. The water whispered promises of renewal, and Sarah felt invigorated to continue the fight, not just for Lucy, but for a future where no child ever felt unseen or unheard.